Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox. Hope you all are having an amazing day, guys. In today's video, we are going to talk about my camera team for this week that I used. I'm going to show you all the builds and all the stats and everything that you need to know. There are also a few replacements. I know you see two mythical champions and a Unity champion, Fyna, right? But you also see Geomancer, and there are quite a few obtainable replacements here. Obviously, it will make the run harder. But in general, there are other options to get 25 mats and the basalts this week. So let's get straight to it. Let's first talk about the trials. Now for one, we have 7 mythical mats on the ramp form. We need increased accuracy, place 7 unique debuffs. We need to place weaken and then have increased crit rate and increased crit damage on your champions and then deal damage. It's 2 million damage on Ultra Nightmare. We need a weaken and decrease defense and then deal 750k with 1 skill. Damage from counter attacks and enemy max HP hits will not count. And then we're gonna move on to the line form. Here on the line form, we need to damage the Chimera within 3 of its turns while your champions are under 5 unique buffs, right? So we need 5 unique buffs. Very important. It cannot be 5 continuous heals or whatever. Then we need to damage the Chimera while it is under decreased speed and decreased defense. And then damage the Chimera with counter attacks and ally attack skills. And this trial chain is one of the easiest ones on the whole Chimera fight. Then we have trials number 3 here, where we can get the 4-star Basalt still on the line form. Damage the Chimera while it is under a leech debuff. Place 10 debuffs on the Chimera within 2 of its turns. And one of the debuffs must be a decreased resistance debuff. That is really hard to do because there are not a lot of champions that are good for a Chimera that can place a decreased resistance debuff. The most popular one is Galathir. Then we have Klazak now, which is also absolutely amazing. Crazy beast in Chimera. We have Balar, which can be your main damage dealer, but you know, this rotation, he's weak affinity, so might not be the best idea to bring him. But if he's your only option, then that's the way to go. And then we need to reflect damage on the hard trial. And as you saw, I used Geomancer here. This is actually the first time I used Geomancer. I'm very happy about that I was able to use him. I was trying to fit him in. You know, I was always missing that one piece to the puzzle, but now I got it finally to work. And he does this trial so easily. It's unbelievable. I'm going to show you that later on. And then on the Viper form, this is probably one of the trickiest trials to do because you need to deal that poison damage very, very quickly before turn 2 of the Viper form ends, so you can complete the normal one in that first Viper cycle as well. Because theoretically you are facing the Viper form for 5 turns, but only 4 turns, for whatever reason, in the Viper form count as the Viper form turns. So if you don't complete this trial before the second turn ends, right, we are going into the Viper form on turn 25. That means basically we start at 26 and then 27, and you know, before 27 ends, we need to complete this trial. Otherwise, we won't be able to complete the normal one in the first time we face the Viper form. Turn 28 counts as well. Turn 29 counts as well. But for some reason, turn 30 doesn't count as a Viper form turn for whatever reason. Like I said, I don't know what's the reason behind that. Maybe because there's not an attack from the Viper form, which could be an argument. But on turn 30, you know, the Viper form switches to the ultimate form, and then the ultimate form attacks. So I guess it's not a complete Viper form turn. So practically speaking, you only have 4 turns on all the alternate forms. And then the hard trial: successfully revive 1 ally or all allies when reviving multiple champions. And the best way to do this is to go into the Viper form with 1 champion already dead, or have them so low HP when you go in that they die from the first attack or whatever. And then, you know, you gotta have a super tanky, maybe high resistance reviver that can cycle his revive back. You're gonna try to revive the first time, but it's gonna get denied by the passive from the Viper form, so you need to cycle it back, and the second time you revive, that's when you complete this trial. But you have to survive, so that's kind of like the thing. If you have an AoE reviver, it's even better because only 1 revive will get denied, all the other champions will get revived, but you have to successfully revive all allies when reviving multiple champions. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I focused on. I wasn't able to do this right here for the 3-star Basalt. Also wasn't able to do much other trials, but that's pretty much the most important part. If you can't get the 4-star Basalt, that's fine too. The next best thing is to get 25 mets, then 19 mets in the 4-star Basalt, and so on. So even 16 mets is better than nothing, right? All right, but now let's talk about this team right here. Pretty interesting if you ask me, because the decreased speed champion that I'm using is Toshiro in his second form, and basically I'm just utilizing this right here every time I go into a form. I use the decreased speed, I try to land it, and then I'm trying to extend it, and it's actually a pretty nice synergy here with Toshiro in the second form. You have a chance here of 50% to increase the duration of all enemy debuffs, so you can keep up some debuffs, increase the duration, and Narma can actually do the same thing on the A1. As you can see, my Narma is not even fully booked, but the A1 is. It is a 75% chance to do that, but it happens quite a lot, and it's really, really good. Yeah, just a little detail that I wanted to speak about that helped me to use Toshiro as my decreased speed champion, but also in general, those debuff increases are very, very nice to have. We have Fyna in here that provides the block damage, which is absolutely crucial on the Ram form. Makes it so much easier to deal damage with your damage dealer, right? So he doesn't kill himself on the reflect. We don't have fear in here, true fear, so we need the block damage to make it a little bit easier. It also allows us to build Toshiro with 70% crit rate, which makes him hit a lot harder. We don't really need to increase attack that much, because Toshiro really hits hard. But yeah, there are quite a few other options that you can use instead of these champions, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But first, I want to highlight Narma again. Narma is such an amazing champion. I really love this champion now. After the rebalance, she really becomes one of the top tier poisoners for Chimera. Also other content, but I'm pretty much past that point where I would use her anywhere else but Chimera. But for Chimera, for me personally, she's doing absolutely amazing. So like I already mentioned, she's increasing the duration of all debuffs on the targets by 1 turn with her A1. Amazing skill. She has 100% chance if booked. And by the way, she needs a lot of books. It's actually crazy. I wasn't able to completely book her, but I definitely will, and I think it's worth it. So she has, the single target attack that has a 100% chance if booked to place decrease attack and leech, as well as activate all poisons, and this is a very important part about her kit. And then she also heals by 25% of this champion's max HP, so you can actually control this heal pretty nicely by pumping up her HP. Pretty amazing. 3 turn cooldown if booked, also great. One thing that I noticed is that even if she weak hits, she would still place that leech, but not the decrease attack, so that's kind of nice. Good to know. And then this is the most important part. She places 3 poison debuffs and a poison sensitivity for 3 turns. That's 9 ticks if she activates that. That's almost the full poison trial in 1 activation. This is absolutely amazing. The second part doesn't really matter that much on Chimera. This is maybe for wave content where she puts the debuffs also on other enemies if the initial target is already under 3 or more debuffs, but that doesn't do anything for Chimera. Only the top part. As you can see, it's not booked, so I don't really have a 100% chance to place all these poisons and poison sensitivities. So it was kind of a RNG thing for me at the moment because she's not booked, but it worked, right? I had to try it like 2-3 times and then it worked. But yeah, like I said, she places those poisons for 3 turns, and if you have Master Hexa and one of those poisons gets extended, you can pretty much complete this with 1 poison activation skill. That's why you need her to have, to be a little bit faster. You need to have her with decent speed so she can take 2 turns while the Viper form takes 1 turn, right? So you can place the poisons and then activate them. So that is really important. And then if you don't place those poisons with this skill right here, this, the most important part really is to place a poison sensitivity, because otherwise you won't complete that trial. Now with that passive, when you go in, you already have a 25% chance of placing a poison for 2 turns. And when she is attacked, there's a 50% chance. So you already have like, 4 times a 25% chance to place a poison and a 50% chance to place a poison when you go into the Viper form. Theoretically, if you are lucky, you can already have like 5 poisons up. By the time you go in to the Viper form, you can just place the other poisons with the poison sensitivity. That's already 8 poisons, 8 poison ticks basically. You won't have the poison sensitivity here, right? So you have to place it with this skill and then just let it tick. Obviously, the Viper form will remove those poisons as soon as the Viper form takes a turn. But, with Fyna, we can reset her skills, place the poisons again, and then activate. So yeah, absolutely amazing champion now. Besides the poisons, also provides very important debuffs, leech and decrease attack at the same time. Absolutely amazing. Now, here's some footage of the fight. The first thing that I want to mention is that it's really important if you want to maximize your damage to place that decreased speed with Toshiro. It is really important. There's no other way to slow the Chimera down. We don't have another champion that can place a decreased speed in this team. So it's very, very important to place it. Unfortunately, in the ultimate form, as you can see, we will weak hit a lot, but with Fyna we can reset the decreased speed pretty quick, so we can try to replace it and then maintain the decreased speed with the debuff increase from the A1 from Narma and Toshiro if it's needed. I always wanted to have it like 3 turns, right? So we still have a couple of turns to increase it again. And maybe you also notice that we don't have a buffs, but that's where Geomancer comes in pretty handy and steals the buffs with his A2. And, that way we can make sure that the Chimera doesn't, maintain that increased speed buff, which would also hurt a little bit, right? And we kind of lose clash right there, right? There's also another thing. I always try to do as much damage as possible when I run mythical met teams, because why not, right? I want to try to get as much out of it as I can. So the next thing that I'm trying to do here with Toshiro is place those debuffs that he has, so I can stack up the Nature's Wrath damage bonus and the damage bonus from Erratic Coronet, so I can complete the damage trials quickly. And then another thing that is important with your Toshiro as a decreased speed champion, you always want to make sure he's in his second form when you go into the alternate forms, so you can place that decreased speed as fast as possible and get control over the fight. That is very important. Makes it a lot easier for you to complete the trials, and is one of the first things that I want to do, right? I want to have the decreased speed on the Chimera. All right, so now we should be going into the ramp form in a second. My Narma is actually the champion with the lowest crit damage, so she will be targeted, but that's totally fine, right? She is kind of like the one champion that I don't really need to be up at the start of the fight. Obviously, she does place nice debuffs, but I don't really need them. The first thing, like I said, that I want to do is place a decreased speed so I can get control over the fight. Unfortunately here, I didn't want the debuff to get reflected, because the first debuff that you try to place will get reflected. As you can see here, the decreased accuracy from Geomancer got reflected. That is kind of like actually that's the first thing that I want to do. I want to trigger that debuff reflect so I can, place a decreased speed. After I place a decreased speed, I can start, completing the trials and focus on completing the trials. So now I need to swap forms with Galathir, place it increase accuracy, very important, because then we unlock those damage trials. And we can do them very quickly with Toshiro. Toshiro is an insane damage dealer. He ramps up damage and he smacks so hard. I probably, could do it without, all the Fyna buffs and whatever. So yeah, here we got 6 debuffs already, pretty quickly. Now I'm gonna cleanse the debuffs, replace the decreased speed. I still have the increased accuracy. Now I can swap forms. But I'm not going to do that because I would lose the block damage and then kill Toshiro. That's not what I want to do. So I'm going to wait until I get the block damage up again so I can swap forms and nuke. That was kind of like the strategy here. Because as you can see in second form, Toshiro doesn't really deal damage. It's all AoE attacks, and AoE attacks don't really hit that hard in the second form. So yeah, then I had the block damage up, swap forms, 1A2, boom, got the trial done. Place a decreased defense, which, you know, helps me to do the trial as well. And we need it for the second one, for the second damage trial, the hard trial. And now it's basically just, you know, next time that when I face the Ram form, you know, just deal 750k damage and Toshiro deals like 4 million or whatever with his A2. If we have decreased defense and weaken and attack up and so on, he can really smack. Then right here is turn 15 when we go into the line form. This is probably the easiest form with this team, to be honest. I've never done these trials that quickly. We pretty much completed both trial chains in like 3 turns. It was absolutely insane. We got the leech with Narma. Now we just need to deal damage, place debuffs and so on. You know, again, I want to make sure I have the decreased speed up. As you saw maybe here, it got resisted, which was very unfortunate. But we can get it back real quick with Fyna, which is, you know, so nice. Quality of life, right? Fyna is just quality of life, basically. There we got it back. The debuff's gonna be on for the whole fight, right? We got the decreased speed now. I can swap forms. I will lose the buffs, right? I need 5 buffs to complete the middle trial. But we're gonna get it in a second when Fyna can rebuff. So now we actually need to deal 1.4 million damage. And then we need to have 10 debuffs on the line form, and 1 debuff needs to be decreased resistance. Now, one little thing that I had to pay attention to is that the debuff bar is not, you know, filled up with poisons. So you can theoretically place the decreased resistance before you fill up the debuff bar, right? That's kind of like a little side note here, which makes this trial a lot easier. And man, maybe you paid attention to the reflect of Geomancer, but it was like 500k each time, basically. And here we got the 10 debuffs, right? I very rarely use the poison sensitivity and poison skill from Narma. She basically just places poisons with her passive. I activate them, and then I try to increase the debuff duration because I don't want to put too many poisons up. So the debuff bar is full, and I can't place the debuffs that I actually need to deal damage or for specific trials. So that is also another thing, how to use Narma properly. Just let her place poisons with her passive. Her A3 is not that important on the other forms unless you need to fill up the debuff bar. For the Viper form, it's a different story though. And yeah, here, you know, we just had the line form attack Geomancer once and we completed the whole thing. It was so easy. I mean, he does 500k with his reflect per hit, right? So it's, you know, it's that max HP reflect. Pretty insane. Now, before going into the Viper form, it's a little bit tricky. You definitely want to have that decreased attack up. You want to have that leech weaken, decrease defense, so your champions can heal back up. Because as you can see, you know, we are going into the Viper form with a relatively damaged team, right? Because that A2 does hit a lot for every debuff that the Chimera has on. It will be additional 10% damage or whatsoever. And you want to make sure you have, like, you know, what's it called? Life Drinker. You know, those vampire fangs on the masteries. And that way you have an ability to heal up with Leech every time your Warmaster, if you have Life Drinker and Warmaster, when the Warmaster procs, you will heal for a good chunk, which is, really helpful because the Viper form can deal a lot of damage. Even, here the Viper form had increased attack, increased crit damage, increased crit rate. So Viper form can hit quite hard if you don't have proper defense stats. That's also very important. I had to make sure that I can survive the initial attack when we go into the Viper form. But here I recovered. Now, the most important part at first is to place poisons, right? Boom, we placed all 3 poisons. We also placed the poison sensitivity, and we placed 1 poison with the passive. So now we got 4 poisons ready to go. Pretty damn amazing if you ask me. Also, I need to place the block active skills so the Viper form doesn't do all the shenanigans that it normally does. The poison ticked. We got 4 ticks straight away. That means I need to replace the poisons now. I need to replace them, take another turn with Narma, and then activate them, and then the trial is done, right? We have now 3 poisons. We only placed 2, right, with the A3 because it's not booked. That's kind of like the RNG thing that I was talking about. So now we have another 8 ticks here, and we only need to, trigger 10 ticks, 10 poison ticks on a Viper form. And that means as soon as she gets a turn, boom, we can activate them. Trial done. Now we need to survive 3 turns, which is easy if you have the block active skills from Galathir. Viper form won't do shit, so definitely very easy to survive those turns. That's all we have to do. All the other trials are not that important for me. Obviously, we're going to complete the trial number 1 easy for some extra mats, but that's about it. All I really want to do now is survive. And then the next time go into the Viper form, I'm going to do the revive thing and get the last trial done. All right, so here you can see I'm already trying to let some of my champions die off. That's turn 54. We are about to go into the Viper form. Fyna just got killed, but I don't really want Fyna to be dead, to be honest. That's kind of like the thing, but it is what it is. I had to play around that because Fyna can reset the revive, right? So if Fyna survives, I can try to revive a Galathir, and one champion will get denied. The revival for one champion will get denied. Then I could theoretically reset with Fyna and just revive instantly. Here Narma died too, but you know what? It was still okay because Galathir is just a beast. He's basically unkillable. He's crazy. If you have him with high resistance, fast, relentless, he's an absolute beast for Chimera. The best reviver that you can have. And as you can see, now I'm going to try to revive. Narma got revived. Fyna got denied. I can remove the buffs with Geomancer. Unfortunately, I didn't have the heal ready with Narma, but that's okay. Extra turn with Galathir. I can heal up. Very nice. I'm just placing stuff now. It's whatever because I know I'm going to get that revive back the next turn, and then I'm pretty much done with the trial. All I really had to do here is keep Galathir alive until he has that revive back again. And there we go. Boom. Trial done. We got everything done that we wanted to do. We got the 4-star Basalt. We got all the 25 mats. And yeah, it went very smooth. I have to say that this team went very smooth. I did not expect that because we are using our nuker as our decreased speed champion, but in the form where he doesn't really deal damage. And that is kind of the, that was kind of the interesting part here. And also, man, we are using a Geomancer, an epic champion. I love to use him. I use him a lot in other areas as well. And he's just a great champion and helped me a lot. And I always tried to fit him in my team, but I wasn't able to. I always thought, his reflect is amazing. He has a decreased accuracy, which can be quite nice. But also he can steal buffs. And the HP burn, obviously. In the end, we also got the 1 key damage. 123 million damage. I think I could definitely do more. It was also a very quick run, right? 40 minutes. Pretty amazing. I think the reason for that is that we don't have increased speed on our champions. So we don't, overlap the Chimera and take, crazy turns, crazy amounts of turns. And yeah, 4-star Basalt, 25 rare mats, 32 epic, 6 legendary, 25 mythicals, and 1 gemstone. As you can see here, Narma is even level 56, not even maxed, but it didn't really matter. Also not fully booked, so that kind of, it's a little bit of RNG for the poison sensitivity to plays and the poisons, but it's a relatively high chance. And also I have the sniper mastery on her, which, gives an additional 5% chance. So realistically, it's an 80% chance to place those debuffs. Now let's talk about some replacements. So there are a few champions that you can swap out. So let's say you don't have a Toshiro, okay? Let's say you don't have a Toshiro. What we need now, or the two things that he brings, is decreased defense and decreased speed. And there is an epic champion that can do that. Let's just take a look at all the options. So there are not a lot of options. There is Royal Guard. There is Phoenix. Phoenix can probably do it, but he's, weak affinity, so not that great here. But Royal Guard can do it. So if you have a 6-star blessing for Royal Guard or Phoenix, if this was Force affinity or Spirit or Void or anything else but Magic, Phoenix would work. But here I think Royal Guard is the best option. He basically does the same thing as Toshiro, just not the Leech. He has a max HP hit, which can be quite nice, right? And he's also a high elf, so he has a synergy with Fyna and Galathir, which is pretty interesting if you ask me. So yeah, he would definitely work. He has the decreased speed on the A3, decreased defense on the A1, and he can smack. He can actually hit hard if you have a 6-star blessing, and maybe also empowered, who knows. I'm not quite sure about this guy. Sir Artimage, I never really used him. Maybe you guys used him at some point, but he has the decreased defense and decreased speed on A1, AoE attack, a cleanse, and he has a 30% def ignore, increase attack. So he's self-buffing. Wow, that is interesting. That is interesting. Maybe that's, that could work. I'm pretty sure that could work. If you have a 6-star blessing, Crushing Rend, with this skill, Merciless on top, you can ignore 100% defense if you give him a Cat's Gaze, for example. But I would probably just give him a Erratic Coronet and just stack up his damage. So yeah, maybe he can do it. I don't know. I haven't tried it, but he could be a potential damage dealer here. He has those 2 debuffs. He's self-buffing, so theoretically you could also use somebody else but Fyna. But then again, you don't have the reset without Fyna, so, doing the poison trial with Narma would probably be more RNG heavy. You would probably have to place, I don't know, or she has to be super fast. But, you could probably use a Klazak, right? Klazak can transfer debuffs with his A1. So as soon as you go into the Viper form, he has the poison sensitivity. You can place it. And the poisons, you can place it on the Viper form. Narma's passive is going to place poisons, and then you just activate them. Boom. Should be done. So that would be another option. So like I said, Royal Guard or this guy. I don't know if he hits hard enough. That's something that has to be tested, but I really think so. Then if you don't have Galathir, you could, use Balar instead. He has the decreased resistance. He has the poisons. It's weak affinity. So again, RNG heavy. You need to hit those attacks. And I want to show you this screenshot right here from Jeremy. He's been subscribed to the channel for quite some time, and he has a very interesting comp here, right? With, kind of a spin-off what I'm using as well, just different. Basically use Rio and Theodore for the poison trial here, reflecting the poisons, activating them with Theodore. He also used Toshiro, Galathir, Fyna. I posted my team on the RSL leaderboards, which is an absolutely amazing Discord. All the people are posting their teams there, and you can get a lot of inspiration and help. And, it's not for people to talk about how the teams are built and so on, but, people show their scores, show their teams. You can get inspiration. Maybe you can DM them and ask them if they want to share their builds and so on. But in general, you can get a lot of inspiration here, right? And he posted this like shortly after I posted mine here on the RSL leaderboards. I think he pretty much did that on his own. And this is the reason why I do it. I want to help people to get the mythical mats. I know not a lot of people do have all the champions that you need, but there are a lot of people that have all the tools that they need, but they just don't know how to put them together. And that's why I do this. Also here, another great team. 25 Mets with Klazak, Nekmo, Lady Mikage, Belar. And then here we also got another Klazak team variation that even got the 4-star Basalt with Gizmag, with the Reflect. Pretty damn amazing if you ask me. All right, but now let's talk about the builds, right? Let's talk about the builds. Let's start off with Toshiro the Bloody. Toshiro is in a 6-piece Merciless set and a 2-piece Zeal set. I have 1 piece of Pinpoint for additional accuracy. Yes, Feral is better, but that's, that's the better piece that I have. I don't have a better Feral banner than this. This has a shit ton of attack and makes him smack real hard. These are the stats: 56k HP, 8k attack, 245 speed, 351 crit damage, 75 crit rate. All you need is 70% crit rate if you have Fyna or an increased crit rate buff, and 383 accuracy. You don't need more than that because he's ignoring resistance. 20% if his skills are booked. Normally people don't book the second form of Toshiro, but I actually invested 2 mythical books and they landed right where I wanted them to. I got the ignore resistance on this skill, the decreased speed skill, which was very important, and then his first form is completely booked. I run the erratic coronet on him. The stats are very nice for him. Attack, he scales, damage from attack. Accuracy is also what he needs. And then we have the Boss Slayer and Pierce defenses, and Nature's Wrath, 5-star blessing, 15% more damage. If you have a 6-star blessing, go with Crushing Rend. And then we have Helm Smasher, Life Drinker, Door of Steel, and Master Hexa for the masteries. Next in line is Galathir. I put him in a Relentless set, 83k HP, 4.2k defense, 372 speed, 547 resistance, and that's pretty much all I cared about. Will carry a card just for PvP purposes, but helps with the resistance too, right? Blessing also doesn't do anything for Chimera. Completely booked, both forms. Very important on this champion. And then these are the masteries. Alright, let's talk about Fyna next. 9-piece protection set is definitely the best way to build her. She doesn't have any debuffs in her kit, right? Only buffs. So that is the best way to do this. 73k HP, 4.2k defense. I had to make sure that she's tanky enough so she can survive the initial Viper attack. That is very important. If you have a high soul, definitely try to hit resistance. That would help a lot. But if not, 370 speed, that's what I would focus on. And then, around 4k defense and 70k HP. For a relic, I have the Purge Shadow relic on her. Definitely helps a lot to cycle those skills back. You get more turn meter boost and so on every time she places buffs. A2 and A3 completely booked. I don't care too much about the A1 because we can't put the skills of the Chimera on cooldown, so it's whatever. Most important part really is to book this and this, the A2 and the A3. I have no blessing on her, no soul, so if I had one, I would probably go with Intimidating Presence to stack up the aura, right, to make the aura stronger. So that's kind of like, one of the blessings that you want to have in your Chimera team. It's Intimidating Presence. Then it's Cruelty if you need it. Some teams don't need it. Crushing Rend on Nature's Wrath on your damage dealer. And then Brimstone occasionally if you need it. There are some situations where you don't need it, where you have enough debuffs and you deal enough damage that you don't need it. But in general, it's a good option to have. And then here are the masteries. Most important part is really Life Drinker and War Master, and then also Lasting Gifts. Next in line, Geomancer. First time I used him, put him in a 9-piece Pharaoh set because he can place 3 debuffs. That gives additional 15% damage. Do you necessarily need it here for Toshiro? Probably not, because Toshiro is an absolute beast and smacks like a maniac. And these are the stats: 80k HP, 4.2k defense. I wanted to make sure that he has the highest defense, so he gets attacked by the line form. Maybe you notice that the defense difference is like 20. So I pretty much tuned this with glyphs, right? And try to get as much defense on Fyna as possible. 324 speed. It's fast enough. He doesn't need to be crazy fast. All he basically has to do is place that, HP burns and weaken so he can reflect. And for that, he also needs the accuracy, right? 520 should be more than enough, or right where you want to be. This is more than enough. And then I had the golden elixir on him, which I already had on him before. Also, he has this damage reduction for bosses, but none of these are really that important. The golden elixir actually was quite nice because the lion form couldn't kill him. That was, I don't know, for some reason I found that quite nice. Is it super necessary? Probably not. But, you know, it just kept him alive. Completely booked. I got cruelty on him. And these are the masteries. Most important part is probably Master Hexa and Eagle Eye. If you don't need Eagle Eye, you could theoretically go with War Master, right? But I just went for the additional accuracy, basically. Then we had Narma. Narma, I didn't really go for a specific set. I just tried to make her as fast as possible so she can take 2 turns on the Viper form when the Viper form, like that she goes 2 to 1, right? 65k HP, kind of on the lower side. I wish I could pump that up a little bit. She was very squishy sometimes. 4k defense. And yeah, that's pretty much all I cared about. So first I focused on speed, then on the accuracy, right? You want to be close to 520. And then as much HP and defense as I can get. I even sacrifice a little bit of speed to pump up that defense and HP. So, like I said, you need to survive the Viper attack. Purge Shadow Relic on her as well. And this gemstone here helps her as well to get, you know, that additional turn that you need to place the poisons and then activate them. Because for each debuff this champion places, she will get additional 3% turn meters. So if she places 3 poisons and a poison sensitivity, that's already 12% turn meter right off the bat after she takes a turn, which is absolutely amazing, right? It makes sure to hit that speed threshold to take another turn and activate those poisons as well. So this helps a lot, right? And if you have 2 of these, she will definitely take another turn. And yeah, not completely booked. Unfortunately, all my books, or, you know, 4 of my books went to into the A1. If they went into the A3, it would be perfect. I don't really need the cooldown reduction on this, but it definitely helps. So I think the most important part really is, you know, to book this like A2 and A3. The A1 doesn't need to be booked that necessarily, but, you know, it is what it is. You can't control where your books land, and that's about it. And then here are the masteries, also not fully done. I went with Master Hexa, obviously, to extend those debuffs, and then also Eagle Eye for additional accuracy, which allowed me to, you know, build more speed and more defensive stats. So yeah, guys, that's been pretty much it for this video. Finally, I got another team that I can use. I finally was able to use Geomancer. I'm happy to use Narma. Narma is one of my favorite poisoners now. Besides Balar, I think she's a lot more fun. For some reason, I don't really enjoy Balar that much, even though he provides a lot of things that are really important for Chimera trials. But yeah, I'm really happy about Narma now. And the rebalance, before the rebalance, this wasn't possible. This wouldn't be possible if there was no rebalance. So great job on that, Plarium. Please keep on doing this. Keep rebalancing old champions, make them viable for endgame content. And yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this helped. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. Feel free to ask if you need help. I'm always happy to help. You can also contact me on Discord if you're looking for paid takeovers. You can message me as well. And yeah, don't forget to like the video. It's really important and goes a long way. Also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more raid content. The YouTube algorithm is going to suggest you a video that you might like right here, and see you in the next one.